Purdue will win their 5th consecutive Feast Week tournament this weekend in Baha Mar. Find out why today.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network, where it's your team every day. Thank you once again for joining us. I am your host. I am Nick Arvin. I talk Boilermakers every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and I write about Purdue for Purdue 24/7. We have an exciting episode coming your way today because Baha Mar is here. And Purdue, they're on the pace to win their 5th straight Feast Week tournament title. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. So today we're going to talk about Purdue, why I think that they're going to win 5 straight, why they're going to win it all in Baha Mar. We'll transition over to who needs to break through in Baha Mar, who's going to be that breakout guy for Purdue during this tournament. And we'll end off today's show talking about the Big Ten, the landscape, the games that happened last night, everything there is to talk Big Ten. But let's go ahead and jump right into things today. Let's talk about Purdue and why, in my opinion, and why I truly do believe Purdue is going to go into Baha Mar and they're truly going to be dominant. And what we really have to put into focus is that Purdue, they've won 4 straight of these MTE multi-team event tournaments during Feast Week, going back 2 years to Maui. That was a fun one where Zach Edey, he was able to bring home the tournament MVP in that one. Going back to last year, you win it in a buzzer beater against Ole Miss in that MTE. So 4 straight for Purdue, looking to make it 5 in Baha Mar. So that's the #1 thing, is that Purdue, they're used to this. This is a tournament. Although Purdue's first trip to Baha Mar, these types of tournaments are something that Purdue has been very comfortable with, especially with head coach Matt Painter. So that's specifically looking at these multi-team events as a whole. But what about this specific Baha Mar then? Why do I believe that Purdue is going to win, and why am I so confident in that? Well, ultimately, it comes down to the first round matchup. And I don't want to sit here. I don't want to make this episode talking bad about Memphis, because Memphis, they're a struggling basketball team, and you can ask anybody about that. I don't need to be the one to tell you that the Memphis Tigers aren't the best team in the nation right now. They have not lived up to their expectations so far this year, and Purdue, they get a chance to see them tonight. And I think that's really going to be an advantage for Purdue when you talk about the overall landscape of this tournament. Having the opportunity to play against a Memphis team that just lost by double figures to UNLV this past week. That's a team that doesn't really have answers. And I hate to say it's a free win, because there's no free wins in college basketball. There's certainly no free wins in these multi-team events, especially not in Baha Mar, where you're playing in a hotel convention center, right? But I mean, in terms of the other teams, Memphis, that's the team that you want to see round 1, and it is the team that Purdue is going to see round 1. And the reason specifically, because you can look at them losing to Ole Miss, which is fine. Ole Miss will be a solid team this year. You can look at them losing to UNLV and you can say, oh, this team sucks. But you kind of have to understand why Memphis is struggling. And it really comes down to the fact that they don't really have a big man that can produce at a high level. Their starting center right now is Thierno Silla, who against UNLV, he had 2 points. He played 14 minutes and had a single rebound. He's their only real center on that roster, and he's only averaging 3 rebounds a game as their starting center. He's got 3 points, 3 rebounds. He really hasn't produced at 6'11" the way that Memphis has wanted that guy to produce. And then you look at UNLV getting beat in the rebounding numbers. You can look back to Purdue, where they struggled against Oakland, and how important rebounding is to winning games at the college level. It really is everything. The ability to extend those possessions. Memphis doesn't have that. They can't out-rebound anybody right now. They can't out-rebound UNLV. They sure as heck can't out-rebound a team that looks like maybe the best rebounding team in the nation. the past 2 games with Osterkloff, with Trey Kaufman-Renn. They don't have the ability to out-rebound Purdue. That's non-negotiable. They're not going to out-rebound Purdue. So that's something that you can look at and say, Memphis, they go into this game and they're already going to struggle. If you look at KenPom, and KenPom, it gets dragged around. It's not perfect. However, it does give you a good understanding of where certain teams are at. Purdue's a top 5 team to be expected. Akron, who Purdue faced off against this past weekend, at 79. Memphis at 77. So that kind of gives you an understanding of where this Tigers team is at in terms of expectations and where they've kind of become after 2 early season losses. They are 1-2 on the season to start out, looking to get to 500, but the Boilermakers will want to say something different about that. Something else I wanted to mention about this Memphis team is that they really just don't have a number 1 scorer right now. Going into this year, this Memphis team was a team that I thought personally would be pretty solid looking at this game on Purdue's schedule, because they do have a bunch of guards that can really produce. They've got Sincere Parker. They've got Curtis Givens III. They've got Doug McDaniel. Those are their 3 guards that they're going to really want to play through those guys. However, they really haven't produced so far this year. They haven't found that number 1 guy. All of their guards have been okay. They've both been in all 3 of them, rather, have been in double digits. Sincere Parker with 11.3, Curtis Givens 10.7, and the same for Doug McDaniel. But there's not that number 1 scorer. Their leading scorer is averaging 11 points a game. That's not good. That's not what you want. And if you want to go look at the team stats, when you look at the 3 ball, they're only shooting the ball at 32%. They're only passing for 16 assists a game. They're only rebounding 35 times a game. You look at this Memphis team and you understand why our partners at FanDuel have Purdue as such heavy favorites against this team. I'm not trying to say that Memphis is a terrible team, that they don't deserve to be here, but what I am saying is that Purdue is a much better team. Unless something crazy happens where the Boilermakers get upset early on by a Memphis team that is really struggling, there's no reason why Purdue shouldn't go to the championship game in Baha Mar for an opportunity to play for number 5 in a row. I truly do think that's kind of where we're going to be at. And honestly, I think it's going to be Texas Tech. If it's Wake Forest, I'm fine with that because you have the opportunity to see our guy Miles Colvin again. That's going to be fun. But Texas Tech, that's going to be a top 15 matchup in the nation if it happens on Friday, and it's one that I want to see. Obviously, Texas Tech, I think they're favored right now over Wake Forest. Don't have the exact number pulled up, but they are favored against Wake Forest. That doesn't really mean all that much. I think that Wake Forest is incredibly underrated in terms of all the guards that they have on that team. But if you have the opportunity to face off against Texas Tech, that's a quad 1 win. That's a quad 1 win on neutral floor in mid-November that you can hold going into March. And it's the opportunity for your second quad 1 win of the month, beating Alabama earlier in the month. It's going to be a great opportunity for Purdue either way. But to have this first round matchup where you certainly, it's the best draw that you could have gone in terms of this Memphis team really struggling right now. Purdue really having the pieces to out-rebound them, to take advantage of their front court, and to just plain out-shoot them. I mean, you have that opportunity. So I think that it really lines up Purdue well to make a run in this event, to win this event. Obviously, I would have probably had Purdue winning this event either way because they're the number 1 team in the nation. They're playing lights-out basketball, and the way they've been playing the past 2 games, it looks like the number 1 team in the nation. So it would have been hard to say that Purdue was going to lose one of these games or to predict that going into this tournament either way. But the fact that Purdue has Memphis early on, that they have them in game number 1, a struggling Memphis team, it gives me a lot of expectations that Purdue is going to win their 5th straight Feast Week tournament. But of course, that could all change today because we play the Memphis Tigers tonight. We'll have an episode coming out tomorrow previewing Friday's matchup, so make sure you stick around for that. And make sure you stick around for this next segment because we're going to talk about the breakout guys for Purdue who needs to break out in order for the Boilers to win in Baha Mar. That's coming up next here on Locked On Boilermakers. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com and sign up to play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's talk about breakouts. Let's talk about guys for Purdue that we want to see breakout in Baha Mar, guys that are going to give the Boilermakers a better opportunity at winning the Baha Mar Invitational if they produce. And I prepared 3 names, 1 starter and 2 guys off the bench that I want to see for Purdue really break out in Baha Mar, and guys that I think are going to have the opportunity to do so. And the first name I felt like was obvious. It was the obvious pick for this because he's been struggling, and he's someone that if Purdue wants to make a deep run this year, they're going to need to find some success out of this guy. And if you couldn't guess, that guy is Gicarri Harris. Gicarri, he struggled probably more than any Boilermaker on the roster with the start of regular season. And it's really a shame because he put in a ton of great work this offseason, really developed into his three-point shot. And then during the exhibition games, I mean, he was making them from 3. He was making them from everywhere. And it was a point where Gicarri Harris during the exhibitions where it was like, how can you even keep this guy off the court? How can you not start this guy? Because that's how good he was. And so far, going into the regular season, he's been far from that. He's been Purdue's least efficient player on the floor, only scoring 3 points a game so far this year. And the shooting numbers are really where it shows up. Only shooting 22% from the field, 25% from 3-point range. Gicarri Harris, he struggled. There's no doubt about that, but he absolutely has the talent to succeed. He absolutely has the talent to break out, and I'm so positive that Gicarri Harris is going to have a big game one of these days. It stinks to see him struggle, and a large reason why I picked him to have a breakout game for this segment is because I want to see him succeed. But he's just that guy. He's that type of competitor where, yes, he's struggling right now. Yes, he's probably the most inefficient player right now for the Boilermakers, but I still do have faith that Gicarri Harris, he's going to bounce back, and I think that breakout game could be against Memphis or maybe in the championship game of Baha Mar. Gicarri Harris kind of strikes me of a guy, and we've seen it in the past, where he can really take over games. And we know that's kind of the case with Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn all game long, where they really control the game. But for Gicarri Harris, he kind of strikes me as a guy where you don't see it coming, but he makes 2 or 3 threes in a row, and the dynamics of the game has shifted. I still think that Harris is a really good defender, and he's still proven that he deserves to be on the floor because of that. And I'm not saying take Gicarri Harris off the floor, but what I am saying is that he needs to continue to grow, get more confident in himself offensively, and I think that he will be able to do that. I think that Gicarri Harris is due for a breakout. The starter that I picked out for this was CJ Cox, and I thought that this was another one in terms of picking out a starter that might have a breakout that has kind of, I don't know if struggle is the word to use for CJ Cox, but that hasn't really stacked the box sheet with a ton of numbers. I feel like CJ is that guy. We saw it last year against Alabama where he completely turned that game over on its head. He has a similar dynamic to Gicarri Harris where CJ Cox specifically, he's not going to shoot the ball as much as a Gicarri Harris, but when he's shooting it, when those shots are going in, he can completely flip a game on its head by making a couple threes in a row, by getting efficient looks. That's what CJ Cox gives you. And right now, 5 points a game. He's shooting the ball at about 40%. So he is efficient, but he just ultimately doesn't really shoot the ball a whole ton, is kind of been the deal so far this year. But I think what CJ Cox does that people don't really talk about is his ability to guard other teams' talented guards. So like against Alabama, that's a team with Aiden Holloway and LeBaron Philon where you need someone that's going to be able to guard one of those guards because they're so talented. And if you don't guard both of them with two very talented defenders, one of them is going to beat you. And ultimately, Purdue is able to beat Alabama because Braden Smith, because CJ Cox, because Fletcher Loyer at times were playing good defense. And more than anybody, CJ Cox, you always noticed him. He wasn't letting anybody by him for most of that game. He was being the point of attack defender that he's kind of built his reputation on being. So I think CJ Cox, he's had a good year. He just hasn't shot the ball. He hasn't shot the ball a whole ton. He hasn't gotten a ton of numbers. Does that change in Baha Mar? We'll have to see. But CJ is certainly a guy where I think that he can take off. And even as a playmaker, we talk about breakouts, and a lot of people think points, but the assist numbers are something for CJ that playing against Braden Smith, it's kind of difficult to rack up a ton of assists because Braden, I mean, he's averaging 8.5 on the season, but CJ Cox, he's only averaging 1 assist. I know he's kind of a combo guard where the ball isn't necessarily in his hands, but I do think there will be opportunities for CJ Cox to move the rock, to pass it to his teammates, and to maybe get a few assists. I think that when he's doing that, when he has more of a multi-dimensional game from an offensive perspective, the shots will start to open up and he'll start to be able to create more looks for himself. I think it's just a matter of time for CJ Cox. Not worried about him at all. And I'm not necessarily worried about the last guy on our list, but Omer Mayer is my last selection. And before anyone gets on to me for saying, Omer Mayer, you're saying that he's bad, that he hasn't produced. That's not what I'm saying. Yes, he probably hasn't had the season that we hyped him up to have, but we also kind of overhyped Omer Mayer a little bit. Not that he's not talented, because he's one of the most talented freshmen coming into college basketball this season, but just the expectations that we put on him. He is coming off the bench. So the opportunities that we may have thought, whether he was going to start off that wing to start the year, those may not quite be there. But what he has done is he's kind of found his role as leading the offense when Braden Smith isn't on the floor. And even when Braden Smith is on the floor, he may be arguably more productive because he can play off the ball with Braden Smith, or he can play on the ball and pass to Braden Smith. It really gives you a ton of options with Omer Mayer. And personally, that's why I think he's really going to break out in Baha Mar. And if anyone breaks out in Baha Mar, I think that Mayer is going to be the one to do it, especially against Akron. I saw some great things from that guy. Really, when Braden Smith was on the floor, where he was just such a multi-tool, being able to generate looks from three, being able to get it inside, play make. That's who Omer Mayer is. That's what he's built his reputation on coming out of Europe, coming out of Israel. That's why he has the opportunity to play at Purdue. That's why he really is as high rated as he is, because of those different attributes, the different levels to his game that he can kind of blend together. And when Matt Painter really uses him the way that he has been used in past couple games, it really makes me realize that, yes, we're going to have this guy going into the future, and he's going to be a special piece going into the future. But even this year, he's really going to produce for Purdue. And I think that Omer Mayer produces in Baha Mar. So far on the year, he's averaging 7 points a game on decent efficiency, 44% from the field, 33% from three-point range. I mean, he's not playing the best, okay? He's not playing the best, but he's still a freshman. He needs time to get used to the college game, and that's going to come for Mayer. I've seen so many opportunities for Mayer where he's almost there. The shots just haven't quite fallen yet. He hasn't quite gotten into that tempo, into that flow state that we're going to expect him to get in maybe 10 or 15 games into the season. But I think if you continue to give him opportunities, if you continue to put the ball in Omer Mayer's hands, good things are going to happen because he truly is talented. He truly is special, and he's going to be a good guard for years to come. Those are my 3 breakout guys for Baha Mar. I hope all those guys really pop off for Gicarri Harris. Just really kind of improve. I'm not overly worried yet, but improve that efficiency, because that's going to be the main thing in building more confidence up within yourself. For CJ Cox, building a more multi-dimensional offensive output where you can pass the ball, rack up those assists, and it opens up the opportunity to get your looks. And I know that's more difficult said than done, but That's going to be the key for CJ Coxon. For Mayer, just continuing to get comfortable, learn the game, develop, and that will come because that guy is so talented. We talked about Baha Mar, but stick with us for this final segment because I want to give an outlook of the Big Ten right now, a bit of a Big Ten State of the Union from the number 1 ranked overall team. What games are happening this weekend? I may give out a few predictions. We'll see. Stick with us. That's here next. Big Ten play will be here in a little bit under a month, but I wanted to go ahead and take a look at some of these Big Ten teams, how they've been playing this week, the matchups that'll be on tap for this weekend, kind of get a good read on college basketball, where the Big Ten stacks up, how they're playing, all the teams. We'll go ahead and do that right now. So last night, there were a couple big games that were played. Obviously, Illinois, Alabama, where Illinois, they get beat for their first loss on the season. I still think that that's going to be a very talented Illinois team. I do think that Alabama is a very talented team as well, but Illinois, they just look so experienced in terms of having all those European guys that are going to be very successful for them. Right now, the number 8 team in the nation after this loss to Alabama. I don't know if that drops them out of the top 10 entirely, but we'll have to see. No matter what, I do think that Illinois, they're a top 3 team in the Big Ten, absolutely, in my opinion. I think that they're going to find a lot of success this year under Brad Underwood. Stojakovic, he is incredible. I was watching him last night, against Alabama, and he's just so good in terms of he shot 11 for 16 from the field, 26 points. I think that this is a guy that you look at and say this could be an NBA player for the future. Stojakovic is really good. His dad was really good, but he is incredible. I said that Illinois was a top 3 team. The other team that I have up there is Michigan. And Michigan, they got a big win. They stay undefeated, but it was against Middle Tennessee State University. Yaxel Lindenberg, he's really starting to kind of hit his stride at Michigan. He had 25 points and 12 rebounds in that game. Once again, Michigan is another one of those teams. I really think that the Big Ten, it kind of has layers right now where some teams, they're going to be really good. They're going to be in the tournament. I know that Joe Lunardi has 10 or 11 different Big Ten teams getting in this year, but I think that there's really a criteria of these are the top teams and no one is above them, and that being Illinois, Michigan, and Purdue. I really think that the Big Ten runs through those 3 teams this year, and Michigan, I mean, they stay undefeated on the year. A win is a win, albeit over Middle Tennessee State. Penn State, still undefeated on the season. They get a 4-point win over Harvard last night. Penn State is a team that I still don't really know where I kind of stand on them. I think that Caden Mingo is pretty talented for them. He's averaging 15 points on the season. He's a pretty great freshman guard for Penn State. But really just a lot of question marks surrounding the Nittany Lions right now. Only a 4-point win over Harvard. Harvard may be decent, so I don't really know how much we put into that. A lot of these questions are going to get answered in just about a month as Big Ten play starts up, but overall a solid showing to start out the season for Big Ten teams. And going into today, obviously Purdue versus Memphis, where Purdue is a 16.5-point favorite. Indiana, they'll play Lindenwood. I think that Indiana, they're going to be really good this year under Darren DeVries. And I know that we don't like Indiana on this show. I know that we don't like the Hoosiers, but I mean, the rivalry is better when both of these teams are good. And Darren DeVries, so far, I mean, he hasn't played, that program hasn't played a high marquee matchup yet. Marquette isn't a marquee matchup this year. With Lamar Wilkerson, with Tucker DeVries, that team is really, really good. And I'd like to see them get ranked soon. I'd like to see Purdue beat them when they're ranked. And I just think that that rivalry is going to continue to grow and grow and grow because I really like what DeVries is doing over there. I got to be honest. I really like what he's doing in Bloomington. Nebraska, they play tonight. They're 8.5-point favorites over New Mexico. That's going to be an interesting one because I think New Mexico really underrated in terms of having a good team. They always seem to have a good team this year as well. And Nebraska, still one of those teams where they're 4-0 on the season, much like Penn State. The jury is kind of out on them, whether they're going to be a good team this year, whether they're not. Price Stanford, he's kind of balled out for them from the forward position. He's given them 17 points per game. He's a junior for Nebraska. Ultimately, these teams just trying to kind of get stuff figured out. But I mean, when you're winning games, you can just play who's in front of you. Nebraska, that's another team where a lot of question marks. And that's kind of the takeaway from the Big Ten. You've got teams at the top. You've got teams that are going to be really good, like Michigan State, who we haven't even talked about. And then you got teams that they're good right now. They're undefeated, but where will they be come Big Ten play? How good are they going to be when they face off against Big Ten teams? That's the real question. And right now it is hard to tell. But so Nebraska, that's going to be one to keep a lookout on, whether they lose their first game of the year, get upset by New Mexico. Iowa is a good team this year. I apologize. Starts amazing. You can talk all day long about that guy. They beat Xavier, which, I mean, I'm still kind of confused about what Xavier is going to be. But I mean, that's a solid win. They beat Southeast Missouri 99-70 the other day. Their first big test is probably, I guess you could say, Ole Miss. I got Iowa in that one, but at Michigan State is a pretty tough game for the Hawkeyes. Of course, Bennett Schertzer does everything for them. He's averaging 20.6 assists on the season. He's crazy. That's going to be a fun matchup with him and Braden Smith. I can't wait for that one. Ohio State, they'll play. That's a team where crazy offense. Don't know quite yet about the defense. USC, really don't know a ton about what they'll be either. They kind of fall into that range of a lot of question marks. Could be good, could be okay. Rodney Rice is their leading scorer. He's averaging 18.7 points on the year, the junior guard out of Maryland. USC, they're going to be good this year, but ultimately, I do think that the Big Ten runs through Purdue. We can get a good look at some of these teams, where they're going to be in non-conference, but you really can't tell until the season starts up, until Big Ten conference play starts up. However, I do think that there are tiers to where this conference is right now. I think that Illinois, I think that Michigan, I think that Purdue, they really kind of run the conference. I think that Michigan State is certainly getting up there. They just flat out beat Kentucky wire to wire the other night. I don't know about Michigan State. They could be special. Just a lot of fun teams. It's going to be a fun year in Big Ten play. It's going to be a fun year for the Big Ten. And I truly do believe that it might be the best conference in all of college basketball this season. And I think that the Boilermakers are the best team in college basketball this season. We're going to have a fun night tonight as Baha Mar starts up. Purdue and Memphis. That one's at 6:30, I believe. And like I said, we'll have that preview episode coming out tomorrow morning about Purdue and whichever team they will face going into the championship game, hopefully, of Baha Mar. It's going to be a fun one, and I appreciate you guys once again for making Locked On Boilermakers your first listen today. For your second listen, consider checking out Locked On Big Ten with Craig Sheeman. He talks everything from the championships and to the rivalries and every game in between. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Of course, it is your team every day. Thank you guys once again. If you guys are just now seeing us, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment as we want to continue to bring you guys daily Boilermaker content every single day. Thank you guys. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.